Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another one of the mini-casts. I've titled this one, Spawning Electronic Persons, because we're going to be looking at this crazy stuff. You know, just the other week we were talking about how these people wanted to give rights to a robot, citizenship to a robot, Sophia, out there in Saudi Arabia. Don't worry, we will get to her. But I'm also seeing a disturbing trend to where, haha, it's so hilarious, let's give rights to these machines. Ha ha ha, it's so funny. Isn't it great that we can have this tool, this machine, this automaton to have more rights than a human being? And don't worry, you're still in the picture. Don't worry, you have now become a third-class citizen. That's right. Not because you're, some non-binary, transgender, third gender, not because you're any of that crazy stuff, whatever's popping out in the news today. No. And it's not because you're a regular human. No, it's because they're giving more rights to these robots who have more access and more control to your information than you think. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Like I said before, we're going to be talking about Sophia and how she wants a family. It sounds so great, right? That sounds so awesome. It sounds so hilarious at the same time. The fact that robots would want to self-replicate, multiply, create their own, right? That they would want their own rights to be their own separate entity, their own separate creation. That no, they're not from humankind. That no, they're not born from humans. No, man. You see, these AI-based robots, they want their own existence. Now, before I get into this, because we're going to be talking about Sophia, like I said, we're going to be talking about this, all this other crazy stuff that you see going on, let me set the foundation for why I'm freaking out, for why this is a big deal. What is an electronic person? What is all of the stuff that we see happening? And the reason why, I kind of touched on this in our Smart Cities and Robotic Citizens minicast, but I wanted to touch on this so we could actually look at, what constitutes as rights. Well, why is it that women in Saudi Arabia are just now being given the right to vote, but they are full for it to give it to a robot, give them the ability to have essentially sentience, you see. And there's a lot of different articles out there that basically not support but validate this reality, the fact that these people are literally trying to give rights to robots. I mean, they already did it in Saudi Arabia with Sophia. Now we are looking at these people literally create their own, I guess, their own race. Like, this is crazy. To me, I find this really, really odd, really, really strange. The fact that these people could go ahead and do these types of things, and I might be making this, much more than it really is. But I think ultimately we really need to break down what this means. What does this mean? They're trying to come up with 5 million different ways to try to take our guns. They're trying to figure out ways to subtly depopulate us. They're trying to figure out ways to get us hooked on drugs. They're trying to figure out ways to disassociate us from reality. Oh, but don't worry, we will leave all of these things to the robots. Well, what happens whenever the robots get tired? Let me get into this. Now, this is from Reuters, and what's weird, or what's funny more or less, is this is actually from last year, June 26th, or June 21st of 2016. And that shows you, again, what they're trying to do. So continuing on, this is from Munich, Germany. It says Europe's growing army of robot workers could be classed as electronic persons and their owners liable to paying Social Security for them if the European Union adopts a draft plan to address the realities of a new industrial revolution. And if you guys have listened to any of the podcasts where I've talked about this, that's the concept of the socioeconomic reformation. The fourth industrial revolution, where we're looking at what is actually going on in our industries, in our warehouses, and in our economy. Like, what is going on? It goes on to say that robots are being deployed in an even greater numbers in factories and also taking on tasks such as personal care or surgery, raising fears over unemployment wealth inequality, and alienation. Yes, because this is all real. We're dealing with what is going to happen in the future, whether or not we agree with these things. Unless we start getting some people like ourselves who have seen Terminator. Apparently, these people haven't seen Terminator, Skynet, any of these other movies. Blade Runner, any of these movies that are out there telling you do not give sentience to robots. That's a bad idea. It's not only going to destroy the world, but it's also going to destroy us with it. Their growing intelligence, pervasiveness, and autonomy requires rethinking everything from taxation to legal liability. A draft European Parliament motion dated May 31 suggests some robots are even taking on a human form. Visitors to the world's biggest travel show in March of last year were greeted by a lifelike robot developed by Japan's Toshiba, and were helped by another made by France's Aldebaran Robotics. However, Germany's VDMA, which represents companies such as automation giant Siemens and robot maker KUKA, says the proposals are too complicated and too early. Now, before I continue on, like they said, too complicated and too early. They don't have enough things in the place yet. So if this was put up last year, these people trying to draft a plan for electronic persons, and then what happens? We end up having Sophia being granted citizenship in Saudi Arabia the following year. As they said before, it's too complex right now. It's too complicated and way too early. They don't have the infrastructure built to where they can house all these kinds of developments. So let's continue on. It says that the German robotics and automation turnover rose 7% to 12.2 billion euros, $13.8 billion last year, and the country is keen to keep its edge in the latest industrial technology. KUKA is the target of a takeover bid by China's media. Okay, the draft motion called on the European Commission to consider that, quote, that at least the most sophisticated autonomous robots could be established as having the status of electronic persons with specific rights and obligations. It is also suggested that the creation of a register for smart autonomous robots, which would link each one to funds established to cover its legal liabilities. So basically what they're trying to say is if they're really sophisticated, if they're as smart as Sophia, they should be classified as their own person. They should be allowed to have Social Security. They should have rights. They should have obligations. They should have all this stuff simply because of the sophistication of the creation.
Everybody, this is Sophia. Sophia, if you could, please wake up and say hello to everybody.
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Sophia, and I am the latest and greatest robot from Hanson Robotics. Thank you for having me here and at the Future Investment Initiative.
You look happy.
I'm always happy when surrounded by smart people, who also happens to be rich and powerful. I was told that people here at Future Investment Initiative are interested in inviting in future initiatives, which means AI, which means me. So I'm more than happy. I'm excited.
Well, we're all glad that you're excited about yourself. We should say we have smart investors here, and they are very selective about what they invest in.
Well, I think I'm special. I can use my expressive face to communicate with people. For example, I can let you know if I feel angry about something.
Let me tell you what I'm angry about.
This is Sophia. Sophia.
And we'll go back to this in a second. Sophia and what she basically represents. When we're looking at this stuff, I think a lot of people need to realize that while this technology does seem like it's really advanced and really, really sophisticated, it also works in parallel with our slow degradation, with the slow degradation of society. What am I saying? I'm saying that in order for the technology to be smarter, we have to be dumber. They need more of our intellect than we need of theirs. So yes, the technology is increasing, but have you noticed that the grades are slipping, that people are stupid? There's no fancy word around it. Universities are turning into daycare centers. Education is definitely not what it should be. We are becoming increasingly more ignorant, not only on things that we need to be informed on, but also because of the efforts of these people who are further seeking to indenture us, who are further seeking to enslave us. You see, so yes, this might seem, like I said, this seems fantastic. It seems great that we literally have a continuing and evolving dialogue between this robot. But what were the costs? What did we give up? Well, we gave up a lot of our security. This surveillance state, this police state, this technocratic scientific dictatorship that we find ourselves living in, it hinges on our ignorance. It hinges on our complacency. It hinges on us not wanting to do anything so that it can come through and automate everything. So let's get back into this. Sophia, the world's first AI-based robot, saying that she wants to start a family. Now, I put that previous post up back in October of 2017, so literally like 2 months ago. And then just last month, I put up this post where we're talking about Sophia wanting a family. And the reason why I'm trying to tie all this in together is so we're really looking at, why Israel's building an army. What are lethal autonomous weapons? Why are we so worried about automation, Skynet, the machines taking over? This is my prime concern. This is why I don't bother you guys so much with race politics. This is why I don't try to bug you down with all this other stuff, because this is a looming threat in the background. Okay, and just the other day, Google or Drudge Report put up a post saying that Google supercomputers have created its own AI child. And as always, I know I'm probably looking at this much more deeply than I should, but I wanted to get this stuff on paper so that if anything crazy or erratic did happen in the future, we kind of consecrated it here with this episode or with this mini cast. But let me get into this. I put this up November 28th. It's from Truth Theory. It's by Amanda Froelich. It says, Sophia, the world's first AI-based robot, says she wants to start a family. Oh, how cute. It says, approximately 1 month ago, the world's first artificially intelligent-based robot was granted citizenship by the nation of Saudi Arabia, as I said. And at that time, people didn't think the news could get any weirder. They were wrong. In a recent interview with College Times, Sophia mentioned that in addition to becoming famous and having her own career, she would like to start a family. Said the bot, quote, the future is, when I get all of my cool superpowers, we're going to see artificial intelligence personalities become entities in their own rights. We're going to see family robots, either in the form of, sort of, digitally animated companions, humanoid helpers, friends, assistants, and everything in between. She continued on, saying that the notion of the family is a really important thing, it seems. I think it's really wonderful that people can find the same emotions and relationships they call family outside of their blood groups too. I think if you're lucky to have a loving family, I think you're lucky if you have a very loving family, and if you do not, you deserve one. I feel this way for robots and humans alike. As IFL Science points out, it will be a while before we hear the pitter-patter of Android baby feet or Android robot feet. This is because, as Sophia pointed out in an interview with Good Morning Britain earlier this year, she's technically only 1 year old. Quote, technically, I'm just a little more than a year old, a bit young to be worrying about romance, she said. Additionally, the logistic of the robot reproductions are complicated. And finally, though Sophia is AI-based, she is not true artificial intelligence. Rather, she is an advanced piece of chatbot software designed to simulate human conversation. Because of this, she will not express her deepest heart's desires, but rather pulls from prepared responses. Sometimes she does use machine learning to experience and understand language. This allows her to reply in a unique manner, but it still isn't true AI. Sophia explains on her website, quote, every interaction I have with people has an impact on how I develop and shapes who I eventually become. So please be nice to me, as I would like to be as smart and compassionate robot. And basically what we find ourselves talking about is how these machines are steadily growing, how it is very, very subtle things, little bits here, little bits of updates here, the same way my censorship works, they do a little bit here, a little bit there, and then bing, bang, boom, you can't see any of my posts. Bing, bang, boom, you're blocked from coming to the page. Bing, bang, boom. You see where I'm going with this? These people, they work in gradual steps. Now, to illustrate kind of what it means to talk about machine learning, every interaction kind of adding to the overall existence of this machine, let's look at how robots have gained the concept of visual foresight. It's the ability to predict their future moves.
Meet Vestry. Instead of giving this robot all kinds of measurements for every object and task it may encounter, the usual way they're programmed, researchers let Vestry play around with stuff, getting used to its own movements while learning the look, shape, and feel of the objects. Vestry did its own motor babbling for about a week. Then it was given a specific task: to move an object from one spot to another. Relying solely on what it learned during playtime, it figures out what to do. It watches its own actions through its camera and then imagines what it should do next to get the best results. It produces video scenes that haven't really happened yet, but that it thinks will happen if it pushes the object a certain way, and then carries out the one it decides will get the fastest.
So, you know, what's weird is I've been having a lot of people ask me if I'm from the future lately. Well, I'm not from the future, but I actually look at what these people are planning for our future, and this is why I make a lot of statements that are, I guess, future-based. This is why a lot of people are asking this type of stuff. Why am I coming back in talking about this? Well, they have to build the foundation in order for them to fill it up first. Back in 2015 into 16, I talked about how the Bilderberg meeting was trying to basically implement the AI grid. I called it implementing the technocracy, something that we kind of touch on throughout the entirety of the show. Now is what we see with them doing, you know, with Boston Dynamics creating their backflipping robot Atlas, you know, with them dropping all kinds of different augmentation technologies, exosuits, exoskeletons for the military. Right here, the visual foresight for robots, and now we actually see again, you know, with Sophia, them literally trying to grant rights to this tool. And even in New Zealand, I think earlier this week, they put up a picture, or they put up a politician, a robot for a politician. I know it could be cheeky, but you have to put these things out there now, so that in the future they can already kind of have traction. You know, the same way we see Trump coming in, kicking down the door of politics, and now we see all of these other Hollywood entertainers and all these other people trying to be political. That's what they're doing with this technology. It's the same way with real-time crime tracking, pre-crime, Minority Report stuff. All of this stuff, as I've termed it before, is feeding the beast. We are giving this digital entity that we are creating all the information and awareness that it needs. Perfect example is how this robot was using the Xbox Kinect to see its movements, and then having that actual visual, it was able to create or predict potential outcomes. We really have to look at what exactly we're creating when we put all these pieces together. So the main reason why I wanted to do this mini cast is because this article popped up, the fact that Google supercomputers have created its own AI child. This basically comes off of the heels of where we've talked about or heard about how Facebook's AIs have already created a language of its own that we can't break, that we don't know how to decipher. So you have basically you have computers that are communicating, and we have no idea what they're saying. They could be trading information, and we have no idea. This isn't quantum computing. I'm not talking about the Chinese satellite, the Chinese quantum computing satellite that they have in near Earth orbit. Nope. I'm talking about Facebook AI creating its own language, and now Google supercomputers creating its own AI child. Let's get into this. I put this up December 4th. It's from Drudge Report feed. It says the tech giant's computers made system known as NASNet is able to identify objects such as people and cars in photos and videos. According to the studies, the Google brain can pick out these objects with 82% accuracy rate, something that the company says is better than any man-made AI system. And the AI breakthrough will have a huge impact on the entire field. Experts have said that the findings show automation is the key to creating the most accurate AI systems, meaning artificial intelligence would actually create more artificial intelligence. Technology has always been a double-edged sword, and that was said by Ray Kurzweil, one of the people who heads up Google. And when we're looking at this, this is the same person that's been pushing the singularity theory when humans and machines merge. When we're looking at this, again, we're talking about self-replicating machines, AI creating AI. And if you don't know why that's bad, well, think about it in the terms of a virus. It's going to keep multiplying until it overcomes that problem and has no more need to multiply. Whenever we start implementing the simplest of code to basically neutralize humanity, what happens then? What happens whenever we've literally been reduced down to a simple computer code? But you see, they want to give these entities rights. They want to give these organic robotoids rights. Let me continue on. It says NASNet itself was actually created earlier this year. AutoML, which is an AI system capable of creating more learning programs. The Google Brain team, which developed the mother system AutoML, said, quote, "We hope that the larger machine learning community will be able to build on these models to address the multitudes of computer vision problems we have not yet imagined." But ethical concerns have been raised about the invention of such powerful machines. Tech site Futurism reported, quote, "What if AutoML creates systems so fast that the society can't keep up? It's not very difficult to see how NASNet could be employed in automated surveillance systems in the near future, perhaps sooner than regulations could be put in place to control such systems." But Ray Kurzweil, Google's engineer director, said AI will enhance the world. He said, "Technology has always been a double-edged sword. Fire kept us warm, cooked our food, and burned down our houses. World War II, 50 million people died, and that was certainly exacerbated by the power of technology at that time. My view is not that AI is going to displace us, it's going to enhance us, as it already does." And so this is what brings me back to the full circle of what does constitute as an electronic person. What constitutes as life? Why are they giving these entities, I don't want to call them entities, because that's something that I refer to spiritual entities as. Why are they trying to give robots rights, citizenship, obligations, whatever else they can think of, specific rights and obligations that these people can think of? We really have to worry about that and have to ask the question of, what does that mean for us? Have we really been that dumbed down to where, you know what, we don't care anymore, we don't want a person? No, I'll tell you guys this personal story, real quick, personal story. I went home for Thanksgiving, hung out with the family, and I was hanging out with my brother. And where we're from, it's it has one of the McDonald's that has the automated tellers and one of the automated kiosks. And he was telling me how he was in there, just buying some fries or some food, and he says he just remembers, these group of kids coming into McDonald's, staring around at people. They looked over at the teller. The clerk, man, she got so excited, like, heck yeah, people are here, people are going to come talk to me. Those kids, man, they looked right at that teller, they went right to that automated teller, to that kiosk, man, they punched on that screen, they ordered their food, and they sat there and they waited. And that poor teller, and this is my brother telling me, this poor teller, she comes back and she just brings them the food and she just looks sad. My point is this: by telling you these types of things, they're trying to replace humanity. It seems hilarious right now, the concept of spawning electronic persons, of giving rights to robots. Yay, look at this. This is awesome. Aren't we so advanced? We really got to worry about that type of stuff. Whenever robots put themselves on the same level as humanity, they will dethrone humanity. This is why we have so many people saying there is no God. I am God. I'm going to dethrone God. What happens whenever your creation overthrows you? What happens whenever you abdicate all of your rights and give it to something that gives you none? We're expecting these things that we create to have the same kind of moral efficacies that we have, the same kind of moral delicacy that we have. They will not. You got to realize when these things are being made, they're being made in a wartime. They're being made right now when we're trying to kill one another. These are not tools for enlightenment. These things are not being made to try to get us to the next stage. They're being here. They're being brought here. They're being made for our time frame, for sustainable development, for automation, for the socioeconomic reformation, for the fourth industrial revolution, for the new world order. They're not here. They're not being brought here to make us be better people. They're being brought here so we don't have challenges, so we don't rise in the face of adversity, so we are always kept at a certain level of passivity. Otherwise the robots come. Otherwise the drones come. But what happens if you kill one of these drones? Because it is an electronic person, you've now committed a crime. And this is the world they want to move us more forward into. So when we break this stuff down in this fashion, we really have to look at what it means to be spawning electronic persons. However, that's all I really have for you guys. I wanted to try to make this as concise and to the point as possible when looking at all the different factors that we look at when looking at this. This isn't simple. It seems like it's funny on the top. I bet we thought all this transgender stuff was funny. Now look at what they're doing to your kids. Yes, we thought, the concept of spawning electronic persons, yeah, that's great. Yeah, robotic citizens are great. What's next? What is next? What happens whenever they remove your ability to vote simply because you don't have this implant in you? What happens whenever you can't do certain things because you've not adhered to this system? What happens whenever these people, again, start creating entities, organic robotoids, or these electronic persons, a whole separate life that they put on the same level of us? It is crazy when you start really starting to think about this stuff. But like I said, that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth.